Is your name, is your brand, is who you are and how you do what you do synonymous with the word consistency? Yo, welcome back to Practice, the podcast where we fuse research and culture to help you develop the mindset, habits, and skills that you need in order to live out your purpose with confidence. I'm your host, Coach Rees, and it's time to get better, y'all. Let's go.
We talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Practices are meant to be competitive. They're meant to be competitive. If your practices aren't more competitive than the games themselves, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yo, I'm pumped. And if you tune into the podcast and you know I'm always pumped for every episode because if I wasn't pumped, I wouldn't be doing it. And so if you're here for the first time, then thank you. If you're here because you're coming back, then thank you. But regardless, I just appreciate you being here. And this is one of those things you kind of have to do. And I hate the fact that I have to do it, but I got to ask you, can you please like and subscribe or all those different things? Because there's a thing called a call to action, a CTA, that if I don't call you to take action, you won't take action. So I need you to hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, whether you're listening to this or watching it, so that way the algorithm be like, ooh, they like her stuff, we should push it to more people. And that's what I just want more people to be blessed by what it is that I got to say. So now that part's over, I'm excited to get into this because the topic. So we're in season 3 of Practice the Podcast. In this season, we're focusing on consistency. So the year though, we're focusing on how to win in the year. But this season, we're focusing on consistency. Last episode 22, we talked about that guy, Mr. P, who was the blueprint of consistency. But today, we talk about my guy, Lebron James. Lebron. Now, if you're like, Coach Rees, I don't like LeBron, that's not what this is about. But if you don't want to hear it, then deuces, that just is what it is. Because I'm about to talk about that guy, LeBron James. But not about him and the results of his basketball prowess, but how he became who he is. And I honestly don't think I'm gonna be able to keep everything into this one episode. So there's probably gonna be a part 2 because it's just that good. So if you're interested in learning more how you can become your best self by learning from how LeBron invested and became his best self, then this is the episode for you. Okay. So let's get into it, right? This episode is really gonna be set on the premise of investing in yourself. And that's what LeBron is consistent at doing, is investing in himself. So our quote for this episode is by Ray Allen, that just came out. Ray Allen was talking about LeBron, and he said, longevity and consistency ultimately breeds greatness. And LeBron himself has been known for saying consistency breeds greatness. And now other people are saying his longevity and his consistency are going to breed the greatness. Here's what's so dope, and I encourage you to do this. Type in LeBron and consistency into Google. And it's just so many things about here's a message right here. Ooh, is your name, is your brand, is who you are and how you do what you do synonymous with the word consistency? That's your first one. That ain't even on the notes. Is your name, your brand, how you do what you do synonymous with consistency? If you Google LeBron and consistency, you type that in, a whole bunch of quotes and different things are going to pop up, but it's about people pointing back to his consistency. He may be the most consistent. He this, consistency that. Bruh is synonymous with consistency. So I don't care what you think about the man on the court and whether he's a crybaby or this or that. None of that is relevant for what I'm about to talk about. Okay. But that's the first word to you, is who you are, how you do, how you show up, your character, your values, morals, all those different things, your professionalism, your craft, your mental fortitude. Are you in alignment with, in synonymous with consistency? So our song though for this episode is Forever by Drake, Kanye, Lil Wayne, Eminem. And what's dope about this song is it came out on the soundtrack for the movie that LeBron had, More Than a Game, one of his early movies about his life. But the dopest line from it, first name greatest, last name ever. That Drake just came out, and this was when Drake was still looking like Aubrey. You know what I'm saying? Aubrey from, well, that's his real name, but still he just was looking more like Aubrey than Pretty Boy Drake with the braids and the little cut. But first name greatest, last name ever. The reason why this matters is because it goes back to the quote, y'all. There's alignment in the assignment in this podcast, okay? Where longevity and consistency will ultimately breed greatness. Now, this quote was said today or yesterday by Ray Allen. This song came out in like early thousands. So it was seen like LeBron had been committed to consistency. So my second question for you is, are you committed to being consistent to where there's an alignment between your consistency? Because that's the whole point. Consistent is about continuous. That back then, over a decade ago, when the song came out, this movie came out, like they had already made a staple because they saw what he was doing. They saw how he did what he did and what he was on the trajectory of doing. So Drake says first name greatest, last name ever. And then you fast forward a decade or so and people are saying like, bruh, like, but the reason being, catch me, isn't because of anything other than my man's consistency. That's from his teammates. That's from other people who live around him, but it's also from him. Another thing that Ray Allen said, and we're going to dive into, he said he just was consistent in every area. It wasn't just basketball. Like he was consistent in every single area of his life, his food, his stretching, but then he also had fun. He also did other things off the court. He also really enjoyed his craft. And so as much as we're talking about being consistent in your craft, I'm also talking about being consistent in your character, consistently being authentic, consistently showing up and being you, right? Like your brand, people will be familiar with your brand and your reputation because of how consistent you are. If you're not consistent in who you are and you're in being authentic, and then the people, they don't know what to expect. And when people don't know what to expect, that's not any fun. You know what I'm saying? As far as like how you might show up. Are you going to be, acting some type of way? Are you going to be somebody different? Like people don't like doing business and working and doing life with cats who are like that. So I think those are the first two kind of lessons that we could take from LeBron. Okay. But now, what's the research behind, I think this one is the thought process. Like you got to be have some type of belief in you in order for you to invest in yourself the way that LeBron has displayed that he invests in himself for us, right? And what I want to pull on is optimism. We talk about optimists and we talk about pessimists, but I don't know how often we talk about just like optimism as a skill and a form of capital that you can leverage, okay? Optimism is a form of psychological capital. Now, if you've listened to episodes before, you probably heard me talk about this, but this is a form, it's a skill, it's a mindset that you can leverage in order for you to continue or to start betting on yourself, to investing in yourself. Because when you have optimism, that means you have a sense of hope for your future and what's to come. So if I'm optimistic about me and my gifts and my skills and my talent and what I can do and how I can do it, then that means I'm willing to bet on it because I'm optimistic that this is going to be something that comes to fruition. And we can see and look at LeBron's 20-year career, that's something that's happened, which is fire. So I'm saying the exact same thing to you is, are you being optimistic about you and the usage of your gifts and your skills and your talents and your life and your future and what's to come? Yes, your past is what it is. Your present may be what it is, but like, have you turned out to be a pessimist because of your past when you really were an optimist? That's a question only you can answer. But I believe that when we invest in optimism, not only do I just believe, but the research shows when you invest in optimism, you invest in being an optimist, this is going to return back. The ROI on being an optimist is high, y'all. So that might be something I would encourage you to invest in. The ROI on optimism is high because it's going to yield you a high psychological capital. high psychological well-being. What that means is it's going to pump your brain up and give you an experience of life in yourself, and which means you have a psychologically safe brain and you are more encouraged and more hopeful in order to pursue and do the things you need to do. And again, we see that in LeBron, and I hope that it's something that you see in you. So I don't think that there's hopefully there's not too much that I have to share about LeBron, but I'm not going to run down his everything right now, which is why I want to do 2 episodes. I may even do 3. I don't know. We'll see. But bruh's 38. He's been in the league for 20 years. He didn't go to college. He went straight from high school to the pros, which makes this his 20th year. Okay. Came out straight at 18. He literally went from nothing to a Billy. Nothing to a Billy in 20 years. Jay-Z, as you know, is one of my favorite cats. He was in God Did with DJ Khaled, and Jay-Z was running down the list of all the cats in his crew that are billionaires, and he was like, well, Bron's a rock boy, so that counts. Like, that's a whole nother something we're gonna talk about in a minute. But anyways, like just that, like, he went from nothing to a Billy. Now, I'm not talking about the number specifically, because I don't want you to be like, well, I'm not gonna make a billion. That's not what this is about. This is about, again, him having the optimism to believe in himself, to know I'm going to bet on me, because betting on me is going to turn into opportunities for everybody else around me. Betting on me is going to turn into opportunities for everybody around me. And that's similar to what I said about Master P. So basically what we're seeing here is the data is showing when you bet on you, that turns into opportunities for everybody else around you, which makes the people you surround yourself with that much more important. Ja Morant, what are we saying? Let me not go there right now. Anyways, I'm gonna dial it back. You betting on you is going to turn into opportunities for everybody else around you, which makes it so much more important for you to make sure you surround yourself with people who also add value to you, just as much value as you add to them. Okay. So the other thing about LeBron is I had an opportunity. I did an event at Nike this past quarter. Amazing. But one of the dopest things was I got to go to LeBron's building. So when you're talking about, not only did he go from nothing to a Billy, he went from nothing to a building. like bruh's building on the Nike campus is crazy. And the second you walk in, you're just kind of like, the second you just walk over to the building, you're like, yo, this is legacy. This is fire. And it's breathtaking, and I'll throw some pictures in the edit on it. But it's just a dope experience. And then you walk in, and on the floor, they've got every single miss and made shot of his career when you walk in on the floor. Now, that's fire. But it also has the part where it shows like he just made the 38,000 plus something, I don't remember points, when he set the record. But there's a hoop in all of it, right? And then you turn to the left, which something was my favorite. It had like the chair from the shop, and just being in that inspired me to be great. Am I inspired to be LeBron? No. Am I inspiring you to be LeBron? No. I want this to inspire you to be your best self. That's the whole point, because LeBron is doing a great job of being him. And literally in his message is he wants to inspire other people to be great at being them as well. He only wants to surround himself with people who are great. I think you should have that same standard. I have that same standard. If you don't have nothing to lose, I can't do life with you. If you don't have nothing to lose, I can't do life with you. Again, Ja Morant, where you at? Okay. So here's the thing, guys, is a couple things that I want us to focus on when it comes to LeBron. All right. And again, I told you this episode is I'm trying to shrink them down for time and efficiency, and I want people to listen and all that stuff too. But there's so many things that I can say about LeBron, because I've been a fan of his and him off the court and all the amazing things that he does for a really long time. Like I got to go to and got a private tour of his school in Ohio the first week that it opened up. Just different things that I hope to do work with him and his, his spaces at some point. Like I just really admire the man for this, and we're going to break it down. Okay. So a couple things that in studying LeBron over the past years that I've been able to take away, that I think that you can take away and apply and add to your life, is this. Number one, being consistent is hard and expensive. Being consistent is hard and expensive. The reason that, or the reason that it is, and what I was able to learn that being consistent is hard and expensive, is because doing anything over and over to develop a new habit and routine, and usually the things that people, when they're wanting to be great, the things that they're wanting to be great at requires discipline, and discipline is hard. So if I'm going to be consistently disciplined, that means I'm going to consistently choose to do hard things. It's also expensive because it's going to cost you something. Okay, so consistency is hard and expensive because it usually requires you to be disciplined, which is hard, and it's going to cost you something which is expensive. So now this cost may be, one, actual money out your pocket, which we're going to get to in a second, or the cost is in sacrifice of not being able to do everything else that you might see some people doing and being like, man, I got to sacrifice in order for this, for the greater good, right? I got to sacrifice now for later desires. So that's the first thing we need to know, remember. The second thing is LeBron is the definition, again, of betting on yourself. And I don't know the specifics right now because I didn't do the research on this point, but I think, or I don't remember at the moment, he had an opportunity to sign with Adidas, I believe it was. And they offered him, I want to say, $1 million. And he turned down the money. They slid the check down the long table. And he was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And what he did was he hopped back on the plane. Let me go backwards. He thought, if they're willing to offer me this much, then I wonder how much everybody else is willing to offer me. Right? So he turned it down, pushed the check back, got back on a plane, and went back to school the next day. How many 17-year-olds you know that are turning down millions of bucks right then and there, and you ain't never seen them before, and you're going back living in Akron, Ohio, you know what I'm saying, like in the hood, going back to high school. And so he knew his worth and his value. So it's not just that, he knew his worth and his value then, and he knew what he was working towards. So you need to know your worth and your value. You need to, and again, please don't make this about the numbers and thinking, oh man, you know what I could do with $1 million. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about the action. We're talking about the habit, the mindset, the skill of that. The message within that is, are you willing to bet on yourself consistently? Okay. He also said this. He said, I had a God-given talent. I have a God-given talent, and I want to take full advantage of it. So my question to you is, are you taking full advantage of your God-given talent? Right? Like, that was the point. I want to take a full advantage of my God-given talent. So I'm going to bet on myself because I believe that I have this talent and it's God-given. So me being able to pour all that I am into this. So do you have the ability, the wherewithal, the energy, the strength, and the focus to pour into and take advantage of your God-given talent to really bet on yourself wherever that may look like? The next thing is, he shows that investing in yourself always pays off. Investing in yourself always pays off. LeBron is known to spend $1.5 million a year on his health and wellness, mentally, physically. Now, please don't get caught up on these numbers. You might say 1.5 million, but if you think about it, if we just said he went from 0 to $1 billion, then you say 1.5 million, I'm sure that's probably like 1%. So you take that and apply that to your life and say, can you spend 1% of your income, 1% of your income on your health and wellness, whether that be massages, just rehab, prehab, your food? Because remember at the beginning, I said, Ray Allen complimented him, his consistency on eating right, on stretching right, on taking care of his body, his longevity. Consistency and longevity go hand in hand, and so does the name LeBron. So for you, are you spending 1 to 2 to 3% of your funds on your health and wellness? Because you have to be great. You have to be healthy in order for you to live out and maximize your purpose and your God-given talent. So my question to you is, are you doing that? Again, consistency includes investing in yourself, but investing in yourself will always pay off because that 1% is turned into $1 billion, right? Now for you, it'll turn, who knows what the number will turn into, but you'll never know until you actually do it. All right. So the last thing that we learn about LeBron learn from LeBron in this segment is he surrounds himself with a supportive village consistently. Bruh's had the same friends since junior high. right? Like, he really on that Drake no new friends type of deal. But it's the supportive village. And this goes back to my point of he ended up putting everybody on, but everybody has their own. And this is why we're going to make so many different episodes out of this, because I absolutely love, we can dive into all these different aspects of how he does this, but his whole crew is fire. Like, his whole crew, and this is the thing, this is what I'm talking about, is they all have gifts and talents, which is the same for you. Everybody has gifts and talents, and somebody needs you to capitalize and leverage your God-given ability so that way they can do the same thing for themselves and for their family, right? Same thing with Master P. It's going to open up doors for other people. So LeBron surrounds himself with a supportive village consistently, right? And his whole crew. And it's all in the same way. Like, he even says sometimes he wished he played tennis because he has a hard time if his teammates aren't going as hard as him and want as hard as him. Like, that frustrates and infuriates him. And it's the same way with his friend group. So I ask you, what standard do you have for the folks that you do life with, right? And again, it may not be to that specific level, but what standard do you have? Because it matters. Now, this all boils down to this. LeBron has a fierce obsession with wanting to be the best that he can be. Fierce obsession. And he's also 100% authentic through and through, and grows in that and stays in that. So my question to you is, do you have an obsession with being as best as you can be? And make sure that the people around you also embody that same thing. And are you also committed to being your best self, to being your most authentic self? Okay? So those are a couple things right there that we can learn from LeBron, but we're going to dissect them on a whole nother level and just really pull these apart as we move, because we already over the time that I want to be, and I want to make sure that that this is as good as it needs to be. So now let's tap into the skills and drills of how you can apply these concepts to your life, so that way you can be your greatest. So that way your name can be synonymous with consistent and authentic and hard worker and people and inspiration, if that's what you desire. If that ain't what you desire, I don't know why you're here. So first thing I need you to do is ask yourself this. Ask yourself, are you taking full advantage of your God-given abilities? First thing you gotta ask. And if you're like, I'm not, if you lying to you, then it don't really matter. But you gotta have that honest conversation with yourself. Are you? Look in the mirror. Say, am I taking full advantage of my God-given abilities? And if you're not, then you got to figure out, yes, no, then what do I got to do in order for me to do that? Okay. The next thing you got to think about is, what I want you to do is do a self-care audit. Do a self-care audit and create a list of how much am I investing of my funds into my overall health and wellness. Self-care is not just on Sundays. If you want to be your best and reach your best, you have to invest in it. You have to invest time and money, resources into it. So how much are you investing? Do a self-care audit. Do you have is self-care a part of your lifestyle, or is it just something you leave on a Sunday? And the last thing I want you to think about is this, is I want you to do a village check-in. Do your relationships invest back into you? Are they mutually beneficial? Is the ROI, does it go on both sides? And those are the three things I want to leave you with in this episode, is to think of yourself in a way that's deserving of having the things that you desire to have. Because if you think of yourself in a way that's deserving, or the person who's deserving of having the things you desire to have, that's going to shift how you move. That's going to shift how you invest. That's going to shift who and how you surround yourself with. That's going to shift how you bet on yourself. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is let's be inspired by LeBron in the way that he moves and in his consistency over his 20-year career and all the amazing things he was able to do. So that way somebody else can look at you and be like, yo, I can because of them. So this is where I'm going to leave you with this. I want you to remember that you are worthy of being the model that somebody else needs you to be. Because not everybody can touch and have access to LeBron, but people can touch and have access to you, and your village needs you. So please do what you got to do to be the model that somebody in your village needs you to be. I'm Coach Rees. This is Practice the Podcast. I'm out for now, but I'm sending you with love and grace and strength and peace. Until next time. Peace.